All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining another episode of Ascension with A Course in Miracles. And today, let me move this light, my light that I use for recording my sessions to maybe give me a little bit of light so that I can read my ACIM book. Okay, there we go. I think I can see now. But I am in Florida. I was in Destin last week when we did the last Ascension with A Course in Miracles. And it was so fascinating because I came this way. I came east to spend a month away from the snow because in Colorado, where I live in Frisco, we are going to have snow through June. And I needed a break. I needed a break from all that snow. And then I got to Destin. Hey, sweet Dondra. I got to Destin and it snowed first time in decades that they have experienced snow. So I'm there going, seriously? Anyhow, I wasn't specific. I want to get away from the snow, but I didn't say, and I don't want snow where I'm going. So I was in Destin and now I'm in the Tampa Bay area. And I'm super excited because tomorrow I am going to finally meet Eladia. We call her Lottie. She is the daughter of my sister's son. So she is my sister's granddaughter, her second granddaughter. She has another first granddaughter with another son, and then this son had him and his beautiful partner have Lottie. And Lottie was born super premature. As a matter of fact, at the hospital, they called her a micro preemie. They had never seen, most of the nurses had never had a baby so little, and she was born under a pound. She was 14 ounces, and a pound is 16 ounces. She was 14 ounces, and she was in the hospital her entire first year of life. She literally went home on her first birthday, and her lungs were not properly formed, so she has a tracheotomy because she breathes through machines. Machines keep her alive. Actually, she breathes. They've been creating her lungs, helping them get stronger. I'm not a doctor. I don't know anatomy that well. So if I'm saying something doesn't make sense, bottom line is she's got tubes, one that pushes air to keep her this area open, and then one that sends the oxygen into her lungs. And because she just can't do that work by herself. So I'm going to meet her tomorrow night for the first time. She is a year and 4 months. So, because she was born in August. So I'm going to go meet her and talk about a miracle child. And today we're going to focus, because this is episode 182, we're going to focus on lesson 77. And lesson 77 is I am entitled to miracles. And the reason we are doing lesson 77 is because we just completed lesson 76. It took us quite a few weeks, but we went through, let's see, if you're going to go back to my YouTube and watch the episodes for lesson 76, which is I am under no laws but God's, they started episode 173. We started that back in November, and it goes through episode 181 through last week. And basically, I am under no laws but God's. That is a statement that we must come to, not only honestly, we really have to check in. Am I listening to the ego, or to the ego-made laws, to the man-made laws? Or am I really listening to God's laws? And when you study something like A Course in Miracles, it becomes clear what is of the ego and what is of God's. And because I'm not in my own space, you won't be able to see the charts that I typically have, but I have a chart that is really clear. The ego's world and God's world, and the laws that we operate from are very different. Ego is all about me. It is selfish. It is greedy. It is about how much can I acquire, how much can I take, and I don't care who I hurt in the process. Whereas the laws of God's are about equality. It's about there's more than enough. There's no need to hoard. There's no need to have mine. Because when we understand the principles of A Course in Miracles, giving and receiving are one. As a matter of fact, it's very specific that those who are able to give of what they have, and it's not just to give away our stuff, our money, or our possessions. It is about, can you be generous of spirit? Can you share information? If you are willing to share, is because you trust that your needs are always going to be met. And this mindset that we have operated from, where we have been conditioned since we were itty bitty, and this goes back thousands of years, we have been conditioned to always take care of me. I got to take care of number one. So while the ego is selfish and how much can I get, when we operate under God's laws, it is about trusting. I am abundant because I am as God created me. How much can I give? Very, very different perspectives. And of course, when you trust God and you know you're taken care of, there's no lying, there's no cheating, there's no judging, there's no blaming. That cannot be part of your reality, because the laws of God, or I should say God's laws, are all founded upon everything is one, everything is love. And everything is here to expand the kingdom, because through the giving, through the sharing, through the camaraderie that gets created when we operate in open communication, in collaboration, in co-creation, what gets experienced is so beautiful, is so amazing, because it is based on love. There is no selfishness. When we're operating from the ego's rules, the ego's human-made laws, it is all about bottom line. We have been watching how through, millennia, it's corporations. I know in my lifetime, I've seen where corporations that cared more about the community and the people, little by little, it's all about the profits. It's all about the stockholders. What are they going to get? What return are they going to get? To the point that many don't care, really, truly do not care if they're producing subpar products, if they are maybe even putting chemicals in their products that are not good. But if they're cheaper, then by all means, they're going to continue to do that, because the consumer is not the priority. The priority is the shareholders, and their rewards are based on profit. Which, by the way, if you're not paying attention to what's happening in the financial markets, get ready for some major shakeups to be coming. They have been not only, I've posted lots of information from people who channel, and they are saying we are in the midst of a total and complete collapse of the financial system, because it is founded on the ego's laws. It is founded on greed. It is founded on, it doesn't matter what hurts other people as long as I'm okay. So when you come to lessons in A Course in Miracles and you pay attention to what's happening in you, do you fear that you're not going to have enough? Do you get upset when you hear, your maybe your 401k or your IRA or whatever you have invested in, it dropped a little bit? Do you get all upset? Do you get agitated? Well, it's because those are the remnants of the ego's laws. Always watching to see what the stock market is doing, because that is what keeps me safe. Well, when we were looking at I am under no laws but God's, it tells us very clearly that we think it's freedom to have based our security on the outside, that our medicine, that our education system, that our military system, political system, that's what takes care of me. Lesson 176 is basically telling us, that as a matter of fact, there's a line in paragraph 4 says, it's insanity that thinks those things. So when you really understand A Course in Miracles, it is training our mind to shift our allegiance to God. And to shift our allegiance to God means that we have to see where our allegiance was in the ego. And as those things break, collapse, undo themselves, we are going to experience discomfort, because if you think that your safety comes from the outside and all of a sudden, your political party didn't win, or there's a war, or there's, you know, some murderer loose in the community, you are going to be in a panic because you haven't built your house on solid ground. Your foundation of what you trust is not built on, it's not in concrete with God's laws. And these are the kinds of things that are very difficult for us to really shift our thinking from ego to God, because for the most part, most of us will accept God's laws in our head. We'll say, oh yeah, I believe that, and I trust God, until something happens that gets shaken up, and then we have to really put our money where our mouth is. So walking the talk is what the Course in Miracles is attempting to help us do, which is my favorite thing to do, is how do we make these things practical? How do I live this? Well, I'm going to tell you, there is no way to come to really be under no laws but God's, except through the decision to recognize that there's nothing outside of you that has power over you. Nothing outside of you is going to keep you happy. Nothing outside of you is going to make you rich. Well, it'll make you rich, but it's not going to keep you safe. Your peace does not come from outside of you. And until you are tested, then you can't put these things into practice. You can't really validate that this is helping you. I know, because I had to lose everything. When my marriage fell apart, my second marriage to Ken, and when we got married, he had more money than I did, and he told me, oh, he's going to take care of us, blah, blah, blah. I still had kids at home. I, little by little, I closed my center where I used to teach, which was where I generated most of my income. I minimized my coaching. I went down to only doing very little because I loved it. So I did very little to fit the schedule of I was newlywed, and I'm trying to blend my life with this man who says he's going to take care of me. Everything he has is mine. All kinds of beautiful things that, of course, at the time I trusted. But what happened little by little is, as I was doing less to provide for myself financially, I was relying more on him. I did not maintain my practice of, God, what would you have me do? What ways do you want to bless me with abundance so that I can continue to receive? I literally said, oh yes, Ken wants to take care of me. He loves me. He's sharing. He put my name on his accounts. And I'm looking at the paperwork, and I'm a millionaire. Do I really have to work that much? No. So I did things just for fun. And I had two sons at home, one who started doing drugs. So my time became focused on my son. Well, as I was focusing time on my son that was going through his drug addiction, and my other son was struggling in school, so it required a lot of more hands-on than I ever had to do with my daughter, who was much older, because she was not into drugs and she was self-sufficient and she was a great student. And all of a sudden, I've got two kids that need hands-on. And I happen to be married to somebody who said, you be with your sons. I'll take care of all of our financial needs. So it was a perfect situation. I know all of this happened to me specifically so that I would learn this big lesson. And there's a couple of other lessons that came with that. So when I recognized that, as I was taking care of my sons, and my new husband's getting jealous that I'm spending so much time with my sons, and then all he had over me was to punish me by withdrawing. Well, you can't use that credit card, and you can't go shopping, and you can't spend our money on your boys. Then I realized, I'm starting to feel this fear coming over me, this concern. Like my safety is getting a little rocked. I need time with these boys. One of them was doing online school, so he was at home full time. So my presence in the house was important, and he's doing drugs, so I needed to be there to ensure that he's doing his work and not just high and not doing his thing. The other one is not doing good in school, so he comes home, and I got to help him with his school and his work and stay on him to get it done so he could graduate. So a lot of chaos at the same time. One of these days, I know I'm going to write a book about that, or at the very least, create a video just about the insanity that I was going through, trying to help my kids succeed and one stay alive and the other one graduate so he can become an independent adult. And then on the other hand, I've got a husband that I'm madly in love with, but I'm seeing is just totally and completely giving me the world and taking it away little by little, very conditional. And I'm going, oh, I've developed some codependencies here. But I had the tools, I had the knowledge. I was still teaching some of this. So I knew what to do to check myself in. I knew that it was all about me. It had nothing to do with any of them. They were doing what they were doing, but I didn't have to lose my peace. I didn't have to put my safety on somebody who clearly uses money manipulatively. So I set myself up for the discomforts that were the only way that I could see. I set myself up to suffer. I mean, how else do you see that you suffer except for when you experience the suffering of having made choices that are in alignment with the ego? So lesson 76 tells us if you build your house on this insanity, it tells you very simply, it's insanity to think that those things are going to keep you safe. So the rest of the course shows us how to build our house on solid ground. And that is necessary. And it's to realize things that most people don't want to accept. We are eternal beings. We are made of energy. If you are eternal, you have to put two and two together. You're not your body. You have a body, but you're not your body. Course in Miracles makes it very clear that when Jesus incarnated on this planet, he was willing to be crucified because he wanted to teach us that he's not a body. But before he was crucified, he showed us that when you do not operate by human laws and you are determined to operate by God's laws in this world run by the ego, meaning people with power who think that they are God or better than God or can override God, we're going to suffer the consequences. And the consequences was Jesus was wanting all of us to know. At that time, he was sharing it with anybody who would listen. This is over 2,000 years ago in the Jewish faith. That was his background. The Pharisees, the rabbis, they knew better. They knew better according to the teachings at the time. And Jesus was out sharing information that was inconvenient, very inconvenient truths, telling people, you and God are one. You are a powerful creator. You're eternal. Showed us that he had Lazarus get up from the dead, letting us know you are in charge of your reality. You can create whatever it is that you want, but you need to understand the powers that you have and use them for the greater good. So Jesus was put to death because he was at that time walking the talk. He was under no laws but God's, including death, that it was not going to take him down. And he was not afraid to turn the tables on for the money changers in the temples because he was saying, you're robbing people. It is not okay for you to go around robbing people. God created all of these beings to be wealthy. If you share, there's plenty to go around. And Jesus was very clear. The kingdom of heaven is within. God is within. He told us he and every single one of us and the Father are one. So when you begin to do the work to untether yourself from the external rules and regulations, and some of them are good rules and regulations. I abide by, red lights and stop signs. It's a good thing, especially here in Florida on a road called US 19, where traffic is insane. You want those rules and regulations that humans have devised, but they've been designed to help us. But there are lots of laws that have been designed to hurt us. And if you don't understand the difference, then you become subject to those rules that Jesus 2,000 years ago was pointing to. And at the same time, he was teaching the laws of God's. He was wanting the people who were willing to listen to understand. He wasn't afraid of performing miracles. He could feed the masses because he understood that he was entitled, they were entitled to the miracle of food. And when you understand, and we have had humans on this planet who have been able to make something out of nothing, but you have to really believe that you can do that first. And when it is used for the greater good, nobody goes hungry, nobody goes without, unless you're choosing to be under the fear of the laws of God, of man, because you are too afraid of the freedom that comes from the laws of God. And let me highlight what I just said. It is our fear of that freedom, our fear. And really, what is fear? Fear is a lack of trust in God. That's all that fear is. Once you understand that if you have fear, you don't trust God, because if you know God's laws and you tap into what God can do through you, greater things Jesus told us that he could do through us than Jesus himself could do, because this is an expansive universe. So when you understand what God is and the power that you have, because God is within you and it's the life force that powers you, when you understand that and you live from that and you trust that, you'll never have fear. It's not possible, because you're trusting the laws of creation, not temporary human-made things that change depending on what political party wins. So as we're seeing right now, this country just went through a political election, and we're seeing that the new president is changing rules and laws of the old president. So here in the US, at most, things last maybe 4 years, and then they keep changing. But that's what we have decided to trust instead of the laws that are eternal. 2,000 years ago, Jesus told us the same thing as is being shared for us through A Course in Miracles. So I wanted to focus starting this session now in lesson 77, which is, I am entitled to miracles. Once you know that you're under no laws but God's, once you trust God's laws, there is no fear. Now you recognize, because I'm a child of God, I'm entitled to those miracles. As a matter of fact, our Constitution said that we're all created equal, endowed by our Creator, endowed by God to the same inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Course in Miracles tells us happiness is our purpose. It's our only purpose, as a matter of fact, according to the Course, because if you know that you're eternal life, and you're not afraid of death, and you are living in total freedom, and you trust God, then you have liberty. You have complete freedom to co-create the world that you prefer, but you have to look at, are your beliefs holding you back because they're based on fear? Or are your beliefs based on trusting God? So therefore, you know you're entitled to those miracles. You're entitled for things working for you, things happening in a way that are supportive. And one who trusts God knows you cannot have the highest level of trust for God until you have fully felt God. And when you feel God, you feel that everything is imbued with God's presence, God's essence. You know then you are one with all that is. Harming anybody, hurting animals, abusing the planet, those things are not possible when you know what God is, because you see God in it. That's why one of the lessons, God is in everything I see. So once we cultivate that relationship with God and we feel God and we have that experience that we know all is God, this game changes. This game is what we are referring to when I call this Ascension with A Course in Miracles. When you understand the laws of God's and you live by them, that's the key. You have to walk the talk. Then you are on a trajectory for ascension. Ascension means it's not that you're going to levitate and live higher than everybody else. Ascension means you live a more expanded life because you know the truth. You're not bound by the small ideas that, oh, at best you might become, maybe you might become a millionaire. It's still a limit, but then you got to give 40% of it to the government or whatever. And then you're going to get old and you're going to die. And on the way to dying, you're going to be either alone or you're going to be sick, and you're going to spend all your money on medicine or whatever, because after all, we've been told that you're going to work your all your life, then you're going to retire one day, and then you're going to pretty much go to your grave, and that's it. There's nothing else. And we don't believe that we're actually going to go to heaven, because so many of us have been trained in the fear of hell, because we've been told that we are sinners and we're not good enough. So there's always this idea that there's something wrong with me, I'm going to get punished. So once we work through all of that nonsense, which is necessary to have this human experience, then we can begin the ascension process. And that's to begin to expand our awareness of what's really happening and ascend our vision. We begin to look at things the way God sees things, not the way the ego is trained to be small and insignificant and see it from my tiny little perspective. Oh, it's a big world out there and God's way out there, not with me. Versus, no, I am one with God. I am part of all that is. How can I inspire all others? How can I live my life in service to others? The ideas will come. We become instruments for God. We become vessels that are utilized by God because we get inspiration. Where do you think a musician, a singer, a poet, an inventor, where do you think they get their ideas? Maybe even a politician. When you watch politicians today who are doing things for the greater good, you begin to see that some of those ideas maybe weren't here before. So where do they come from? Well, just like a song comes out of nowhere, so do ideas on how to govern the world, how to create financial systems that are in service to the greater good. If you're paying attention to what's happening with crypto, at its core foundation, crypto is about transparency. That's why this country has had a hard time. That's why they've been suing some of these crypto companies, because that level of transparency would expose so much of how the corruption happens. It would expose the incredible fees that are charged to people for utilizing money that's printed and made up by an institution that is not even elected by the people. So a lot of changes are happening because the old ways of doing things are collapsing. The new ways are rising into our conscious awareness. I read a statistic the other day that less than 1% of the people are aware of what crypto really is, and even less are invested in it. I started investing in that because I realized, once I understood, oh my goodness, this is the new way. This is going to, this is a new financial system that is coming. I better understand it. Because when you realize that those who have aligned with God, those who are listening to the voice for God, know that they're entitled to miracles, know that they're entitled to being taken care of. And on this planet, money's not going to just float down from the sky. It could. I'm open to all possibilities, and we're all entitled to miracles. But the way that we generate money is through doing things that are in service to the greater good. That's the new financial system. Everything is transparent. There will be no corruption in that way of doing money, because you'll be able to see through the blockchain system all where the money goes, who gets it, how it happens. Today, try and ask a politician to show you the money that is being sent, that we're taxed on, and it is being sent to other countries to fund wars. Can they give you an accounting of who gets the money? They're not going to do that. And then if they can't do that, we already know. I mean, you just have to be, all you need is a third grade mindset to understand that some are getting richer while they are not really doing anything that is contributing to humanity. How do people who don't produce products, who don't do something or offer services that are helpful, that people want to buy, how are they getting rich just by being in politics? When you begin to put two and two together, you begin to see God's laws and man's laws. You begin to see who operates by them and who doesn't. Then you begin to see why some of God's children have been inspired to create new things that are going to be, they're totally going to be replacing the old ways, because humanity is at a point where it is time for us to, with our free will, decide, am I going to operate by God's laws? Am I going to ascend to look at this world the way God sees it? It's a whole different ballgame when you do that. Or am I going to continue to operate by the ego's laws? Am I going to stay in fear? Then I'm going to follow those who are going to tell me what to do and how to do it. And because I'm not willing to listen to God, so I've got to listen to them. That's it. There is nothing, woo-woo really going here. It's very simple. Sandy, shh, stay quiet. My little sister's doggy, who's adorable, came to visit. I don't know if you hear her little feet. Hey, Sandy, shh, please. I'm entitled to the miracle of quiet. Thank you. So anyhow, when you can begin to see things really clearly, it all makes a lot of sense. So the Course in Miracles, Jesus gave us these teachings over 50 years ago for this specific time. It is stated throughout the Course and through other books that have been channeled by Jesus, whether it's a Course of Love or the Way of Mastery. It is stated very clearly that we are at a time when choices have to be made, and to not choose consciously to be under no laws but God's is to choose unconsciously to accept the enslavement that we have been under, which is the laws of the ego. That's it. And at the soul level, this is why it's so wonderful when we connect with the truth of who we are at the soul level. All of it is okay. All of it is just an experience. Souls incarnate to either have experiences where we raise our consciousness and truly live with an awareness that we're eternal, that we have liberty, and that we're here to experience happiness, or we choose to go into the game of contraction because we want to experience what it's like to not be free, to not have happiness, to experience suffering as part of what teaches us. Either path is valid. Either path is valid. We just have to be at a place that we have to be honest. Am I choosing this path? Well, it's going to be a whole different world. Or am I choosing this path? And it's just going to be more of the same. Keep doing more of the same, expecting something different, which is why it's insanity to trust external power, because it is not of God. God is within. So the laws of God feel good because they feel empowering, because they feel peaceful within your being. So, and of course, Jesus was crucified because a person who's going around telling people, you don't need to be paying these crazy taxes. You don't need to be following what they're telling you. Even though he said, give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, he was saying, yeah, follow the traffic lights. Stop at the stop sign. Caesar has created some good things, because Caesar is also a child of God. But anything that says that this group deserves more than this group, that's not of God. And we have to stand up and stand against that, which we're watching amazing, massive movements of people who are standing up to a government that has been corrupt. And anybody who can't see that, well, they don't have the eyes to see and they don't have the ears to hear, because they don't want that level of freedom, because that freedom brings a lot of responsibility. It means you've got to connect with other like-minded people to co-create more of those things that foster transparency, liberty, that foster community getting involved. We all have to collaborate to co-create our new earth. All right, so lesson 77, I am entitled to miracles. First paragraph, you are entitled to miracles because of what you are. You will receive miracles because of what God is. And you will offer miracles because you are one with God. Again, how simple is salvation? We've been studying that in the text, that the chapter, I believe it was 30. Salvation is very simple. I just explained it to you. You choose God's laws or you choose the ego's laws. It's really that simple. Salvation means you free yourself from the bondage of the ego. How do you do that? Well, it tells you here. You're entitled to miracles because of what you are. Salvation means you live a miracle-filled life because of what you are. You've got to accept you're not just a human. You are a divine being. You are a child of the Most High. You are holy. You are sacred. You are magnificent. But so is everybody else. This is why you can't go around thinking that you're holy and you're amazing, except for that one over there. And that's why we have to understand the risk that we take when we become righteous and start judging other people or start judging situations. This shouldn't have happened. They shouldn't have done this to me. This is not okay. I'm better than they are. Why didn't I get more? Why did they get more? All of those egoic judgments that hold us in that competition, who's got it, who doesn't have it, those are the kinds of things that we are bound by when we listen to the ego. Again, for whatever reason, political stuff is coming through me right now, but look at the laws that are created that benefit some people but not others. We tax the rich or tax the poor, tax this group or not that group. These people get the deductions. These people don't get the deductions. Why? Stop and think logically. Why do we have so much specialness? Why are some favored and not others? Well, that's because the ego divides. The ego attempts to keep us at odds with each other by creating categories, by putting us into groups, and that is part of the foundation of what we need to liberate ourselves from. Salvation is we're all one. The rules should be the same for everybody. I love some of the things that are happening right now in the political arena that are beginning to get rid of things that divide us. I don't know about you, but I am thrilled that we're about to get rid of the IRS. That so much is being done to get rid of that which oppresses humanity, not only with taxation, without representation, because so much of what is being done with those taxes is really not for the greater good. It benefits some. And if you are conditioned to think, oh, well, we got to keep taking care of these at the expense of everybody else, then your mind has been trained to believe in separation and in specialness. But when you begin to get rid of something that has categories, this income bracket, that income bracket, this income bracket, when you begin to let go of those things and you begin to move towards a basic tax on consumption. It doesn't matter if you're buying a yacht or you're buying a dinghy. If you got to pay 10%, 15% taxes, it doesn't matter. It's going to be equitable because if you are buying $1 million yacht, you're going to have to pay, let's say, and I made up the 15% part. I don't know what it's going to be, but you pay your 15%. It's equitable to what you have made. If all you can afford is a $500 dinghy, well, then you're going to pay your taxes, and it's going to be comparable to what you have earned. So when we move out of things that create categories and specialness, we are moving further away from the ego's laws, moving more towards God's laws. My sister has wooden floors. So every time, I don't know if you hear my little doggy when she runs, it's her little nails hitting the wood. So we have got to first understand what it says in here. You're entitled to miracles because of what you are. What are you? We have been taught since we were itty bitty that we are these bodies that age and get old, and we inherit our mother's, diabetes, or we get our father's cancer or whatever, that we are eventually just going to age and die. That's not what we are. What we are is eternal. What we are is the spark that animates this body. We got to get comfortable with the idea that we have a body, but we're not a body. What are you? Course in Miracles teaches us exactly what we are. You are a child of God. God created you in its image to be a creator. Do you feel that you are the creator of your reality? If you sit around and look at your circumstances and you go, I don't like this, you don't understand you're the creator. Because when you know you're the creator, you look at it and you go, this served me, but I want something different. I prefer situations to be different. Then you come to the place of being a creator. A creator does not feel bad for the choices that it makes. A creator recognizes that we learn through these choices. A creator doesn't operate from making decisions out of lack because a creator knows that I can create anything I want. So there would be no lack in that knowledge that we are creators. A creator doesn't feel lonely or afraid that I'm going to be alone because a creator knows that it is one with all that is. How can you be afraid of being alone when you are one with everything? Once you recognize that the plants in your house is God expressing itself as plants through you, or through God expressing through the plants, how can you be alone? You've got God right there. If you are a creator and you recognize that your dog, that my dog has God, God is expressing itself as this sweet dog, I don't ever feel alone. When I look about me, I know that I'm in a space that is imbued with the presence of God because I see things that way now. I never feel alone. So if I'm not alone, I'm not clinging to relationships that don't serve me. I know you had mentioned earlier, that this might be an important topic to you because you recognize that I rather have my body be alone without another body because I'm totally completely in oneness with all that is. And so there's no fear of being alone. We don't subject ourselves to codependent kind of behaviors. The game that Ken was playing with me. Well, you can have access to the money only if you don't do these things that are important to you, like taking care of your sons. So when conditions get placed on you that you feel are stifling, that you feel do not allow you to be who you are, and you have made a decision to be under no laws but God's, you check in. Well, if this person needs somebody who is going to play relationships the way he wants them, but that's not a match for me, then I need to let that go. Why? Because I'm entitled to miracles. And if I want a partnership, there is going to be a partner that is going to meet me vibrationally at a level of co-creation that does not put rules and limitations, that does not decide that, love is only if you share your money with me, or love is only if you do certain things, and decisions have to be made by me because I brought the money to the relationship and you have less. When the net worth is what dictates who has power in a relationship, then that's pure ego. So you got to find out who you are. Cultivate a relationship with discovering the truth of who you are. And Jesus, 2,000 years ago and today, is giving us lots of information. Lots of people are channeling the messages from Jesus that are teaching us the way. And the way is to come inside and discover a relationship that we have not been taught is possible, which is with a creative source that is within. That which is pulsing through you, that which animates your body, is the essence of God expressing uniquely as you. We've been taught to go look outside of ourselves to be happy, to look outside of ourselves to be fulfilled when we have all that we need within, but we just don't know how to cultivate that relationship. So, a lot of us that go within are made fun. And that's okay. That's just part of the journey. But you come in and you come to know God within. Not only do you discover what you are, but you will receive the miracles that you want and deserve and are entitled to because of what God is. God is an infinite intelligence. It is loving because it is one with all that is. It's created everything. There's nothing that it hates. That's why we have to learn to stop judging, because God created created that my ex-husband Ken created the corrupt politicians. It's created the murderers and the rapists. God has created everybody. Now, when we move down this path, we got to get out of this mindset, but they deserve punishment. They deserve to commit, have a sentence for their crime. Leave that to those who need to do that. When you align with God, and you really understand what is happening here, we cannot ascend to see things the way God sees them, and we continue to see them and evaluate them from a place of ego that needs revenge. If you want to free yourself, you must put everybody in God's hands. Everybody's going to be fine. I promise you, when you discover who you are and who everybody is, you will stop thinking that you know better for anybody, because we don't know better for anybody. And when we put ourselves in the hands of God and we know what God is and we know what we are, then you realize, my goodness, I am an opportunity for more goodness to come to the world. I am an opportunity for more love, more creativity, more ideas to come into the world and make it a better place, because I know I'm one with all my brothers and sisters. When the desire is to make things better, then you can watch the news right now. There's an entire list of people who are waiting to be confirmed for positions for the new president, and you can listen to those who are attempting to diminish or make fun of or bring up dredge crap from the past, or some not even from the past, simply made up. You can hear who has an agenda to maintain that which is low frequency, which is egoic, which is secretive, which is corrupt, and those who are saying, yes, this person is a breath of fresh air. They're bringing in something new we haven't done before. This is going to be a good thing. Let's give this a chance. Then you can hear those who are in service to the expansion, because we can't keep doing the same thing we've been doing expecting a different result. That is insanity. The laws of God's are fresh and new. Allow for things to change, to evolve, to unfold in ways that we never could have imagined, because the gods of laws are not limited the way the ego's laws are limited. You got to do this and this and this, and if you don't follow these rules and laws. But what is wrong with those, what is absolutely doesn't work about those laws, is that they're applied to these but not these. So when we have systems that say, this is a tax bracket for this group, this is a tax bracket for that group, and this is the way we use the justice system, we will go after these people but not these people, you begin to see duality. You begin to see opposition. You begin to see favoritism. God created all of us equal, endowed with the same inalienable rights. No distinction between the rights that we all have given to us by God. But when we support that is our basic foundation, and then we create rules and regulations for financial systems or medical systems or whatever it is that honor that we're all created with the same inalienable right, then we do things that are for the greater good of all. Because they'll be good for them, they'll be good for us. It doesn't have to be good for me and bad for somebody else. Well, the ego likes it that way. But when you do something that is good for the greater good, it is amazing how things function, because the level of cooperation is amazing. I've never seen so many people want to volunteer to serve in this current administration. It blows my mind when I read some of the chats about people who are volunteering to be part of what evaluates our system and wants to get rid of waste and corruption. It's like, wow, so incredible. So then you go to sentence number 4, and it's reminding us again how simple is salvation. Sentence 5 says, it is merely a statement of your true identity. Salvation is a statement of our true identity. You are saved. You are spared from suffering. When you recognize your true identity, you are made by God. And if God is eternal, love, light, creativity, that's what you are. You save yourself, spare yourself all this suffering if you acknowledge who you really are. That's how you save yourself. And when you save yourself and you experience that salvation, then you save everybody else. You release everybody else from your judgments, from your condemnation. And when we move to that higher frequency of seeing everything as potential, then we collaborate. Because once we're no longer in survival mode, we are in creation mode. Sentence 6 says, it is this that we will celebrate today. Today we are celebrating that we really are free. But here's the thing. Are you using your freedom to align with God, or are you using your freedom to keep playing the game of the ego? This is where the work really takes place. You've got to know both sides. You got to be humble enough to know that you don't know it all. You have access to the one who knows it all, but you got to listen to God to receive all knowing. But if you're listening to your ego voice and things only happen a certain way, and this is and you know you're in that egoic box of limitations, well, you're not going to hear the voice that could free you, so you don't have much to celebrate if you're repeating things, wanting different results. But what we can celebrate is that none of this is permanent. If you don't get it figured out in this lifetime, it's okay. You got plenty of lifetimes. What is so beautiful and unique right now is that we are being supported. All of these teachings have come to us at this time so that now we can free ourselves, we can liberate ourselves from the ego and free ourselves to experience eternal life now in these bodies, to experience life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in these bodies. But we have to make that choice so that we can celebrate the truth, who you are, what God is, and what God wants to do through you if you allow yourself to recognize that you're entitled to miracles, because life becomes so much funner and so much easier. I truly, once I made the decision that I was going to let go of insurance, health insurance, I was just not going to participate in that. Once I realized, wait a second, why am I paying insurance, having my mind believe that I might get sick one day? I was like, that's not believing that I'm entitled to miracles. That's believing that I'm entitled to sickness. Just because my mother had it or my grandmother had it, I don't share that story with doctors anymore because I'm not putting that in their minds to have that expectation of me when I don't expect that of me. When I began 5, 6 years ago, one of the greatest gifts of letting go of that relationship with Ken was to see that I had attachments to money, to safety outside of me. He was in the medical field, so he was big into insurance. When I began to release all those things, what I discovered was I was just freeing myself. I was freeing myself of a mental prison I had been in, thinking that all these external things were part of my salvation. They were not. They were part of my incarceration. But I just had bars that I couldn't see because they were beliefs in my mind. And I didn't check those beliefs to see, okay, do these confine me or do these free me? When I began to take an inventory of the thoughts that I was thinking, and I began to apply the Course in Miracles to them, I began to see my own thoughts bound me into a world of suffering. I at least knew by that point I'm creating my reality. I took 100% responsibility. If I'm afraid, if I am in fear of what could happen, I'm not free, Lina. Don't lie to yourself. And I would look at myself in the mirror and go, wait a second, you're judging Ken. That's not love. You're afraid that you're not going to be okay. That's not trust in God. So what am I thinking that has me believe those things? And I took an inventory. I had to take a very deep inventory of the thoughts in my head, the beliefs that I had. Then I needed to shift them and look at, well, what does God say about this? It doesn't come from him. Start doing your work. Allow God to serve humanity through you. Become a vessel that is here to help whoever wants your help. Then all of a sudden, the clients began to come in. The finances began to flow for me. And all of a sudden, I'm doing what I love and doing it in a way that I now don't have to be beholden to somebody else. Did my lifestyle change drastically? Don't no longer have the nice big house in East Cobb where I lived. Didn't have the nice big car, then drive the fancy car. Now I'm going to be in basic things. That's okay. Didn't alter the quality of my work, didn't alter my happiness. As a matter of fact, it became more joyful when my kids were no longer subjected to this nonsense. And they were so instrumental in telling me, Mom, because they already knew what I taught. Mom, why are you putting up with this? Don't be blaming Ken. You're here because you want to be here. Don't say that Ken's keeping you here. And they were so right. Why? Because they too are created by God to be brilliant beings, all of us, and they were being honest with me. And when I began to let go of these things that tethered me to a story that I had been indoctrinated with, that I needed a knight in shining armor to come and take care of me, once I let go of that story, I was like, oh my gosh, I am so happy being me. I am it was so much more happiness not living with somebody who didn't want to operate at that level of trust, at that level of recognition. He easily could have said, okay, I know your focus is the boys right now. You know, he had three daughters. He understood that. Let's let that be the priority. Those boys are going to leave the house one day. They did. And then you and I have the rest of our time together to do the things that we want to do. For now, this is your situation. I want to take care of you. I've got the means. Let's work on this together. That was not his mindset. His mindset was, I'm not giving him my attention, therefore he's not going to share his wealth with me. All right. Talk about codependency. He was codependent on having to pay somebody for the affection that he was getting. He believed that that's how it happened. He's not getting the affection because I'm spending more time with the boys. Then all of a sudden, well, he's not going to pay for it. But I had that same belief because I was willing to put up with that kind of mindset, because I was getting inklings of that before we got married. And I thought, oh no, we get married and he'll change his ways. Aren't I worth him changing? Man, oh man, oh man, was that, talk about lying to myself. That was not trusting God. That was purely trusting ego. So when you look at these teachings and you break them down and you look at your life with honesty, am I applying these things? You begin to see where you really are not. Then therefore, the result of the life that you're living is a life based on egoic beliefs. Let's just look at paragraph 2, because it says, your claim to miracles does not lie in your illusions about yourself. So you have the ability to have miracles. Miracles were getting created for me. The lies that I was telling myself, that I needed somebody to take care of me, that I needed somebody to be happy, I would tell myself those lies. However, God was still working through those boys, telling me, teaching me. The circumstances were showing me very clearly where I had a choice to make. And the only time I couldn't make the choice that was best for me and my sons was because I let fear be the basis of the decision. And for several years, I put up with something that it wasn't in my best interest. But was it not in my best interest? I was learning. It was in my best interest because I was showing myself how all my suffering came from me. So it was in my best interest to stay there because I had not learned to walk the talk enough to have seen what was going on and take myself out of that sooner. So we're always in the classroom that we need to be in. So nothing is lost. Nothing is a mistake. All of it is absolutely perfect if you remember that you're entitled to miracles. Because your illusions and the way that we lie to ourselves, they don't stop us from moving forward. It just might be a little slower. But then once you realize how you do what you do that keeps you where you don't want to be, then you begin to do it faster because you recognize it. And there's no fear. There's just a discernment that kicks in because you know you're under no laws but God's, and you're entitled to miracles, and you're not wavering in understanding that you were created to experience eternal life, liberty, and happiness. Once you get that and live by that and apply that, then all of this becomes so much easier. So those miracles in sentence 2 says, it does not depend on any magical powers you have ascribed to yourself, nor on any of the rituals that you have devised. How many of us use the pendulum or do the cards or the crystals or the whatever? Oh, today is, my day to receive wonderful things. And we go through all these rituals, maybe prayer, maybe whatever. Take your beaded, what do you call that? Crucifix. I forget what that's called. Anyways, once you do those rituals, and we've been trained into doing rituals, we think everything's going to be okay. Well, you can do rituals till the cows come home. If your mindset is not straight, if you have not trained your mind to think with God, you can do rituals. You can put crystals up your butt if you think that that's going to fix your hemorrhoids and still not be okay because you're looking for something external to do what God said you can do. And my example about the crystals or beads or whatever up your butt, I literally heard a story, one man who had heard that and he shared that story with me that he put these crystals, he sat on these crystals because he was told that that would cure his hemorrhoids and never did. Then he started doing more of this work and realized that the reason he had the hemorrhoids was to get him to see where he was still looking for something external to make him better. And it wasn't until he decided to let go of some of his fears that he began to see he didn't need those painful things to call his attention to the power within because he had been trained like the rest of us. You go outside, the medicine is outside of you. No, 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 no. The medicine is within. Like Jesus told the leopard, get up and walk. It was the faith, the belief that that person had that trusted that Jesus's words were true. I 100% trust that Jesus's words were true. If I am having fears because I'm not trusting that the words are true for me in that moment, I'm still believing somehow things are not going to work out for me. Well, I don't want to live my life things not working out for me. I want to live my life entitled to the miracles. So I got to know who I am. I got to know who God is. Then the next sentence says, number 3, it is inherent in the truth of what you are. It is implicit in what God your Father is. It was ensured in your creation and guaranteed by the laws of God. If we don't understand God's laws, that you are free, that you are eternal, that you are creative, that you are made to be happy, if you don't understand how powerful you are and own it, then you are pretending that you're not as powerful as you are, but your power is still there. You're just not accessing it. In a way, you are accessing it because you're creating what you don't want. Because how does your life that you don't like happen? You're creating it. You're making decisions that allow for that. You're saying yes to this, no to that, and it creates the world that then you go, but this is not the job I like. This is not the partner that I like. This is not the way I want my house to be or my finances. Well, who put you there? Who made those decisions? Who made the decisions to accept all of the things that had you where you didn't want to be? And we have to understand, logically use common sense. We have made choices that allow us to be in suffering. We believe things that create separation. We believe that we're better than or lesser than others. If you don't want to experience that discomfort, stop having those thoughts. If you want to recognize that you're entitled to miracles, then sit in the gratitude of what you do have and in the appreciation of what you have surrounded yourself with. Then you can say, all right, God, I want to change things up a little bit, or maybe a lot. And begin to give yourself permission to imagine, to desire, to allow creativity to flow through you. Listen to different podcasts, go to different places, eat different food, try different clothes. Let yourself move out of the rut that ego loves. Ego loves ruts. We keep doing the same thing, expecting different results. I will tell you, my life began to change drastically when I opened myself up to doing things very differently. Instead of having to go to the mall and buy my clothes at certain stores and rack up the what I owed on the debit card so I could have to pay the interest, and I started shopping at the what is that called? Goodwill, and I discovered, oh my gosh, there are new things at Goodwill, many with tags on. And I realized, oops, I used to do that. When I had this abundance, I used to buy things that I never wore because they were pretty. Oh, one day I'll wear them. And then I turned around and gave them to Goodwill. And at Goodwill is $2, where at the store you could see the tag was $80. It's amazing what happens when we are willing to change things up. But we got to get over our pride. We have to transcend the pride that the ego has and activate the pride that says, I am entitled to miracles. No ifs, ands, or buts. And then give yourself grace and use time to let things unfold in a way that will bring that reality to you. So it's amazing. Thank you so much for being here. If anybody has any comments, any questions, unmute yourself and share that now. If not, thank you for your presence because it allows me to share these transmissions that flow through me only because you guys are here. I don't talk like this when I'm by myself. I don't think Sandy wants to hear that. But anyways,
Thank you so much, Lina. Thank you so much.
well, I hope you found some things in here that it will inspire you to know that you made the right choices and you're on the right track because you are entitled to miracles, sister.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye bye, everybody.